Well, Razorback fans, Arkansas baseball still going strong, and I'm back and better than ever after a couple of days off. But let's dive into all of it on today's edition of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I'm also the host of Out of Bounds. You can catch every weekday afternoon from 1 to 4 on 103.7 The Buzz and 103.7thebuzz.com. Hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. And if you're listening to this or watching this, you know it's Tuesday. We did not have a Locked On Razorbacks podcast on Friday or Monday due to me taking some time off. So I had to hit the golf course on Monday, and I had a couple shots here and there. Nobody cares about that, but still. I apologize for not having a podcast up because, the way things are going and how everybody's just eating up all the content. It's a lot of fun to discuss and talk about and everything. But today, we got a good one with Arkansas football, basketball, and baseball, of course, all being into the mix. And I will admit, I'm taking a little bit of a risk here, maybe to the much of the chagrin of the Locked On Podcast Network, because like a lot of times they don't feel like I should lead off with baseball, with Razorback baseball. Just because of right now, knowing how pumped up everybody is about, basketball and even some football, and look at the metrics and the analytics. It always says about football, but I feel like I'm going to at least try it out and see where it goes for baseball, because I think it's worth talking about. I think it's worth bringing up for sure, and knowing where everything's at, knowing that we're just a couple weeks away from postseason play getting here. And if it doesn't work out and nobody downloads or watches or listens to it, then I'll know, like, okay, so people don't really care about baseball just yet, but maybe some other things too. So we'll try it out and have some fun with it either way. But, over the weekend, Arkansas had their final regular season home series against South Carolina. And they were able to take 2 of 3. They won game 1, they lost game 2, and they came back on Sunday and they won game 3. And very impressive fashion, especially game 3 on Sunday, where they were just able to take care of business. And Hunter Holland had a complete game, which is just as sexy as can be. And it was wild to think that Arkansas won 4-1, then South Carolina won 3-1, and then Arkansas won 5-1, all 3 games respectively. So the loser of each game didn't score more than 1 run. And what's wild also about South Carolina too, before we dive into it about Arkansas and where they're at right now, is that South Carolina is 3rd in the NCAA in home runs hit. Like, they have been crushing the ball this year, and they're one of the better offensive teams in the SEC. Now, I know that they're going through some struggles right now. I believe this was their 3rd straight SEC series loss, but they are definitely capable of putting it on and having some serious power. And especially in ballparks that can be known for having some benefits towards those power hitters, which I think Baum Walker Stadium definitely has had that before. But Arkansas was just able to do a great stuff with pitching, and really just not let up. I think it was phenomenal how they were not only able to have great performance pitching, but to not use a whole lot. Like, talking about in game 1, Hagen Smith comes in, pitches a gem. Gage Wood, our guy, comes in and just mows him down. Has an absolutely outstanding performance. Brady Tigert comes in. As we know, he's kind of rehabbing it back. On Saturday, he starts off really strong, gives a great performance. And then Will McIntyre comes in, and I know he struggled a little bit there too. But he settled in after having that bad inning. Like, he was able to really take care of business and do a good job from then on out. And then we just mentioned Hunter Holland going a complete game there on Sunday to take care of business. So the offense wasn't exactly great by any stretch of the imagination, but I love the fact that they are continuing to show that they can have timely hitting. Like, they had clutch hitting. I think Kendall Diggs on Friday had just some big time hits there to really make a difference and really make an impact. And then, of course, in the other game that Arkansas won 3-1, they were able to do some things there late in the game, and they beat you in different ways. They're able to take care of business in different ways, and I've just continued to be really impressed by what Matt Hobbs has done with his pitching staff, what Dave Van Horn continues to do with this team overall. So It was Mom's Day too, Mother's Day on Sunday. So hopefully all the mothers out there had an awesome Mother's Day. And I thought that was a really cool thing for Hunter Holland to complete that not perfect game, but have that complete game on Mother's Day. And I know it meant a lot to him to be able to go out there and take care of business that way too. So it's great. They didn't commit one single error in the series too. Like I think that was extremely impressive. And as of right now, Arkansas sitting at 19-8 in conference play. They are the number 1 seed in the SEC West, and they are the number 1 team in the SEC altogether, in the standings altogether at 19-8. Florida's at 18-9 and they're second, but Arkansas was able to increase that lead over LSU because LSU lost a series to Mississippi State over the weekend in the box and lost it in the game 3 in 10 innings where Mississippi State was down 9 and they stormed back. So kind of a crazy thing. And just how it all went down. But Arkansas, if they just take care of business this weekend against Vanderbilt, they'll win the SEC. And in fact, if they can just win one game, they'll be able to clinch at least a share of the conference championship. So we'll see how that plays out. And they put them in great positions after that too. But here's the thing. Like I've said it many times on this podcast before that until they actually do it in the postseason and win it all, it's tough for me it's going to be tough for me to be impressed. I admit that. I still believe that. I still believe that it's about this team showcasing their abilities and being a better team for it, to be a better team because of it, all of those things. I still believe it. I still believe they got to get it done there in order for me to be truly impressed. But that being said, I am impressed. Just so far. I mean, just because of how many injuries they've had and how many times we've talked about it. And it hasn't mattered because they're still finding ways to win. That's what great baseball teams do. They find ways to win. And right now, they're the number 2 team in the country. On every single major outlet, platform, whatever, everyone has Arkansas ranked at the number 2 spot. Wake Forest is at number 1 for many people. And I hope they stay that way. I don't want to be number 1. I do not want to be the number 1 overall seed. We all know why. So it's incredible. It's incredible to see how they continue to play together. A good friend of mine, Trent Daniel, former Razorback pitcher, he comes on my show on Out of Bounds every Tuesday. So we'll have him on the show today. If you have a chance to listen in, it's great stuff. But one of the things that he's brought up is that he always loves watching dugouts and watching sidelines, watching body language, watching the team, the chemistry, the feeling, and all of that. And he says that he loves the way that this team has just this camaraderie. He's not saying that other years it was bad or anything, but you can just see that they help each other up. They get each other going. They pump each other up and all of that. And it's definitely showing on the field itself. So I think it's at the point now where we can go ahead and assume that Arkansas is going to be a national seed no matter what happens this weekend against Vanderbilt. You don't want to get swept, of course. But no matter what happens, you will be a national seed, which means that not only will you be hosting a regional in your home stadium in Baum-Walker, if you are able to take care of business and win that one, you will be hosting a super regional in your home ballpark. So that's big. And we know how good this team's been at home. They've only lost 4 games this year at home. 4 games at home this year. So that's got to be worth something. And that's got to be something that can be exciting for people to get fired up on. But they're resting guys. Josenberger came back this weekend and looked pretty solid. And, they're trying to get Wagner back, and Stovall they're going to try to get back this weekend too and just kind of work them back into the mix. But this team just continues to impress me. And the job that Dave Van Horn continues to impress me. And so the question becomes, does this team have what it takes to win it all? Yeah, they do. They do. They have all the reasons why, because that pitching staff, and Dave Van Horn talked about how deep it was before the year, and then when it started off a little shaky, it was like, he's a liar. Well, look at it now. He's looking pretty good. And they got the clutch hitting from guys. They got the defense to go along with guys too. And they just got a lot of intangibles. So yeah, they're absolutely good enough to get it done and to win it all. But until they actually get to that point, we'll see. So just again, shout out to the baseball team and what they're doing, and hopefully they continue to do really well, and hopefully they continue to make some noise as the postseason comes to fruition. I guess next week. Yeah, I'll be in Hoover. Actually, I'll be live from Hoover at SEC Media Day. So it's a low key that I'm really hoping that they go 0-2 in barbecue. kind of do, but we'll have to wait and see that. We'll talk a little football, though, because Arkansas Razorback football with Sam Pittman had some pretty significant additions over the weekend to this year's team. But first, I got to tell you about Built Bar, folks. We know that with all of us trying to look better, trying to feel better, trying to eat a little bit healthier, it's not so easy. We got those sweet tooths. We got snacks lying around that's just like, one won't hurt. And then one turns into 50. And then suddenly we feel disgusting. We feel sick. We feel bloated. We feel gross. We don't want that anymore. We want Built Bar. Built Bar is not only a great protein bar with 17 grams of protein and only 130 calories that comes in so many different flavors, but it tastes amazing. You will almost be sitting there and shocked by like, how is this not a candy bar? How because it tastes just like it. You think it's too good to be true. It's not. So check it out. You can go to built.com and see all the different flavors that they have to choose from. You can also go to your local Walmart or Sam's Club and check it out that way too. They got them in the pharmacy section. So no matter how you do it, no matter how you want to get it going with the different flavors, no matter how many you want to buy, just check them out at build.com and head over to your local Walmart and Sam's Club for some Built Bar.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast, football, Razorback football. Sam Pittman getting it done in the transfer portal once again. Over the weekend, I'm sure a lot of you have already probably heard about this, but since it's the first time that we get a chance to dive into it, Arkansas got another defensive line transfer from Louisiana Tech, KV Rose. I think that's how you say his name, but his last name's Rose. And he made an official visit to Fayetteville. He's 6'3", 303 pounds. And he had official visits to TCU in Miami before visiting the Razorbacks from Wednesday to Friday. And he decided, you know what, this is where I'm going to be. He had a really cool video. I should have played it. I should have had that ready to go, but had a funny video. He jumps into the pool. He's really excited about it and ready to go. And to kind of show the offers that he had after entering into the transfer portal. Not only did Arkansas offer him, but he had Missouri, Miami, Virginia Tech, Mississippi State, West Virginia, Colorado, TCU, Ole Miss, as well as other programs. He was first team All-Conference USA as a redshirt junior last season. He had 24 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks. And he wanted to play into the SEC, according to him. He's like, I wanted to do once I got into the portal. It was good to see that the players that they have and where they're at. He was also an honorable mention in All-Conference back in 2021. And so, he's excited about Arkansas and excited about the opportunity to play for them this upcoming season. And with him and also Tank Booker, the Maryland transfer, they're going to be in really good shape there and on the inside. And then you throw in Tre Johnson, Jeffcoat, and then the defensive end John Morgan too. You basically got 4 new defensive linemen that have been added to the team strictly from the transfer portal, and all of them are pretty big time players. And as of right now, this is according to on3.com. Arkansas's transfer class is ranked number 4 in the country. Because I'll talk about another guy that they added here in just a second. But first, just stick with the D-line. We know that in order to win in the SEC and in order to have success in the SEC, you have to be able to control the trenches. That's a fact. We all know that. Arkansas's best teams in the SEC era always had, you had studs. You had, the McFadden's of the world. You had, Ryan Mallett and all those wide receivers. Like, they got a lot of the glory. But if you go back and look at those teams, they had great offensive and defensive lines. In those Petrino years, you had, Travis Swanson, who was a bona fide NFL player. He was at center. He was getting it done. Alvin Bailey even played a bit into the NFL there too. He threw into some of the Houston Nutt days and some of the teams that they had. They had guys that were, if they weren't NFL caliber, they were high level SEC players and experienced guys too, as we know it's very important. And so we know that it starts in the trenches with offensive and defensive lines. But as I've said many times before, I'm never going to be worried about the Razorback offensive line as long as Sam Pittman and Cody Kennedy are there. Because I think that they're that level. Now, will there be years it's better than other times? I think so. I think that's safe to say. But when it comes to just being like, they'll never just have an average. They'll have a good to elite offensive line every year that those guys are there. I don't have to worry about that. But D-line has always been the thing where, even in 2021 when Arkansas went 9-4, their D-line was suspect. Like, you had John Ridgway, who was great in the inside. And then you had Williams on the outside, Tre Williams, who started off really good, but kind of teetered off a little bit. And then you had Utsi, the other Missouri transfer. You had to go 3 down linemen. You just didn't. You had one and a half really good guys, and that was it. Like, you really didn't have enough of them. And so I think that Sam Pittman has really understood that. And I think Deke Adams, when he got hired as the defensive line coach, I wouldn't say I was cautiously optimistic just because of his experience and everything. But I really liked the fact that he was able to, in his time, whether it was at South Carolina, Mississippi State, or wherever he was, I thought it was really good of him how he always added in transfers and got him to play right away. So I was like, that's a really good thing for it too. And so they added him, and I think the D-line without question has been upgraded tremendously. Got depth and high quality depth there too. And the way it looked, especially in the spring game and spring practices, you got some really good guys. Like, I still think Landon Jackson's a phenomenal player. It's really going to come around at the DN spot. So just overall, I think that they've done a good job in D-line. And the other player that they got out of the transfer portal was Louisville tight end transfer Francis Sherman. He was the 6'3", 234-pound guy. He played in 13 games last year. He started in 2 games, and he was more of a reserve tight end in 2021 as well, and then in 9 games in the 2020 season. So he has 2 years of eligibility left. He was a walk-on at Louisville back in the 2020 year, and he was put on a scholarship in 2022. So if you look at his numbers, they aren't exactly like just stellar. He had 4 catches and 32 yards and 1 touchdown in his 3 seasons there at Louisville. So it's like, you see there, like, okay, so how can you get excited about that? Well, let me put it very clearly. I'm not saying that this is some, big time. Watch out. Watch for this guy to be the next Hunter Henry. I don't know. It'd be great if he was. But my point is that you added more tight end depth because we know Gums recommitted, and we know you got some good freshmen that are coming in. But it sounded like that Sam Pittman was really wanting a tight end that can be a blocker, like to be a guy that can truly block. And at least that's what it sounded like when he had his press conference and everything. You want a guy that can do both, obviously. But you have a guy now with this Francis Sherman, from at least what it seems like, and what, knowing Sam Pittman and who they were going after, he's a blocker. You know, obviously he didn't have a whole lot of stats when it came to being out there and pass catching, but he's a blocker. So I think that as long as you add that guy, and that's kind of his role, it's a great addition. And your tight end room, you have a great one in Gums, who seems to be an all-around great tight end. You throw in some of the freshmen that are going to be, added into the mix, and we'll see if they can do anything, especially Luke Haas. I know people have been excited about him. And you add this guy too. It seems like your tight end room has really bulked up and gotten a lot more quality depth there as well. So they keep it going, man. Keep it going. They got a few scholarships left. I know they're still trying to hit it hot and heavy in other spots too, but got to give credit where credit is due on Sam Pittman. And before we move on, I do want to say this, and I'm not kidding about it. I have talked to a lot of I've talked to a lot of people about the Razorbacks. I've talked to college football experts, recruiting guys, transfer portal guys, national guys, not just here locally, but national guys. And each and every one of them have kind of told me something close to the same thing when it comes to what Sam Pittman's doing is pretty incredible. And what this staff is doing, they're putting together a heck of a team, a very impressive team. Their recruiting has been upped. Their approach has been great. The culture's been great. And Sam Pittman even said that he's feeling great about where they're at right now. So got to translate on the field, but it certainly seems like he has the attention of a lot of people, especially outside the state of Arkansas, and the job that he's doing so far. So we'll get a little to basketball news and some cool stuff here with Razorback basketball and high school recruiting on the other side of the break. So stay with us here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Razorback basketball, Eric Musselman. How about this? Who would have guessed? So shocking, so crazy that they're in the mix for the best player in the high school basketball ranks of the 2024 class. Tre Johnson is his name, and he has narrowed his list. He had a long list of people that were giving him scholarships, basically to anywhere he ever wanted to go, and he has narrowed them down to 6. He has 6 schools in mind, and the Arkansas Razorbacks are one of them. Now, Not to say that they don't have other competition, especially in the SEC, because Kentucky, Baylor, Kansas, Alabama, and Texas are all there into the mix as well. He's from Lake Highland, Texas High School. Bona fide 5-star. He's the number 1 player in the country, according to 24/7 Sports, as well as other composite rankings. He's 6'5", 180 pounds, and he's been part of the standout performers of the Nike EYBL 17 and under circuit with Houston Hoops. He says, this is coming from hawksports.com, by the way, that and also 24/7 Sports recruiting analyst Brandon Jenkins. He said that a player that's comparable to the type of player he is Devin Booker. So Devin Booker's a pretty dadgum good player too. He's long and lean, perimeter prospect, shows a sweet stroke. He's as true of a shooting guard as there is. He's extremely advanced with his game for his age. He's a very good jump shooter on the catch and utilizing rhythm dribble, and he loves his mid-range game. So then this is for 2024, and this is a long way off. We don't know when he's going to be committing or anything like that. But to me, it just continues to show that, like think about the confidence level that you have, at least that I do. I don't know if everybody else will agree with me, but at least I do. I have the confidence that, oh yeah, Arkansas, they could get them. They probably will. I mean, again, that doesn't mean that they're for sure going to, but it's like, yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm sure they'll be in the mix. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Arkansas got the number 1 player in the country next season. Like, isn't that a crazy mentality to have? But it's not out of the realm of possibility. It's not like an absurd take. It's just the truth. Like, Arkansas is legitimately in contention for these types of players. And the fact that it's the number 1 high school player in the country next year, it's not surprising. So I look at this as just a continuation of showing where Arkansas is as a program and what Eric Musselman's able to do at Arkansas, and just the way that they have provided opportunities for these kids to look at a place like Arkansas and say, oh yeah, that's a place I want to go. That's a place I want to be at. So I'm loving it. And I love the fact that they're in the mix. But again, some of you may be a little gun shy on the high school recruits and high school players and stuff, because they're still waiting on Ron Holland. I think everybody is right now. Hopefully that happens soon. But it's more like, hey, it's all good when you add in like a player like him, like that next level player, or a couple of players like him, couple 5-stars, few 5-stars, as long as you have plenty of veteran, experienced guys to complement them. Kind of like what Arkansas is going to be doing this year. Soon, hopefully, when Ron Holland commits to Arkansas, still banking on that, still calling my shot on that. Hopefully it happens. But if you get him and then you get, of course, Bay Fall and Layden Blocker, that's fine. 3 guys, 3 5-stars, that's great. That's awesome. Because you have plenty of transfers to offset that and add the experience and the leadership that hopefully they would be needing. So either way, keep up the good work, Muss. Just make it so hard to not get too excited and not to start having too big of an expectation. But hey, I think that you have a big expectation too. So Razorback fans are all going to be on board with it. Appreciate everybody listening in to Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at BuzzJohnNabors for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. We'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you then.